Good. Good
Good.
morning, everybody. Welcome to Diversity in Madison, and good morning, my friend John Givens. I am just delighted that John is joining us. I have thought about having him with us for many years, and here he is. So, John is he's the, what can I say, the power behind Just Dane. He is somebody who is known throughout the community for the work he does with people who are being released and who have recently been released to our community. And thank you, Barbara. And um, he has a lot of things to tell us. It's the population that of people in our community that we really don't know anything about, and I certainly didn't before I started working with John. So, John, I'm just going to turn this over to you, and if you don't mind, I'll interrupt you when I think I need more information. Okay?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank the ladies for having me, and I want to thank Pat for inviting me. I've heard over the years a lot from Pat about this group, so it's an honor, to be in your midst this morning. My name is John Givens. Um, I'm a circle support coordinator from Just Dane. But I want to tell you a little bit about me, before we get off into um, talking about Just Dane and services we have here. I'm a Vietnam vet. Um, Went in the military at 17, turned 18 in basic training. Long story short, went to Vietnam, um, got involved. Well, of course, I'm back. You know, got involved in drugs while I was over there, um, and came back with a heroin habit. Now, prior to going into the military, I came from a very religious, middle class black family in Mississippi, and never thought about drugs or anything. Alcohol, yeah, was a thing then, but so for me to go the drug route was wasn't quite that, but I was a product of my environment. Long story short, I ended up getting discharged from the military with a heroin habit, and I chose to commit a few acts of illegal activities, you know, uh, and ended me up. I started out in Buffalo, New York, and ended up in Chicago, and ultimately ended up in Wisconsin. Um, to take care of that habit, I chose robbery as a way of doing that. Uh, did got 56 years out of 90 for the three armed robberies. Um, did 8 years on it. Came out. I got out in 1980. I guess the if I want to leave anything about that piece of my life, I committed a criminal act. Okay, I'm not a criminal. You cannot make my mother believe that the things that I did was my idea because she raised me better than that, you know. And today I don't own any of, I accept the responsibility for what I've done and I paid for it, but I don't accept that label of being an ex-offender. You know, I was a person who committed a criminal act, but I'm not a criminal. Uh, in 21, I received a pardon from the governor, from Governor Ebert. So I got all my rights back, and it was a proud day. So I want to. I've been at. I started after I got out. I started working at the Urban League, and I started doing a reintegration program for um, for the Urban League, working with justified and just involved people at that time. And So I carried on. My degree is in business. Okay. So I did that for about 5 years, started a business, about 7 years. And then one of my things in my life was I wanted a family. Okay, I wanted to raise a family. So I got married, had 3 kids, and now I'm married 45 years, 3 kids, 11 grandkids, and loving those grandkids, you know. So, but you know, I went to work for after I sold my business. I went to work for the Department of Correction. I worked for correction for 23 years, working with juveniles. That's my passion, working with juveniles, and when you can touch it, because they come there all bad and everything, but they're not bad. They're just misguided kids, and I touched so many over those 23 years. I left there and I started my own business, mentoring juveniles. So for the last 15 years, I've been at 16 years now. Time flies so fast. 16 years I've been at Just Dane as a circular support coordinator. And I tell people that I've had two jobs in my life that I even consider them to be jobs. You know, my job with Sprite was a passion. I enjoyed going to work in the morning. My job here is more of a passion because I wake up ready to come here because of the work, and I love what I do. I love the people that I work with, and having the opportunity to work with Mrs. Eden for a few years was a godsend, you know. So we was a gruesome threesome. It was her, Tom Franken, who passed away a couple of years ago, and myself. You know, we did quite a few end reaches, you know, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So I guess to get into a little bit about Just Dane. I'm going to talk a little bit about Just Dane, then I'm going to go through some of the stuff that we do here, you know. And under Just Dane, I want to talk about the role of supported agencies, you know. All right. Just Dane has been around for, we celebrate now 52 years. You know, this summer was 51 years, so we're working on 52 years of being around. I just understood that y'all been around 90 years, so we're trying to catch up with y'all now, you know. So, but 52 years, Just Dane, then it was Madison Urban Ministry. Okay, Mom. For years, that's what we operated under. And about 7, 8 years ago, we changed the name to Just Dane, because people thought that we was a faith-based. Well, a lot of it is faith-based, but they thought that we was a church. You know, when you say Madison Area Urban Ministry, what is it that you're ministering to? You know, but it was the work that we was doing, and so Just Dane caught on, and so now we functioning at Just Dane. Like I said, I'm working on my 16th year right now, loving it, and I want to share just a few things about. And Pat, feel free to just ask questions if you want to. Because I'm gonna start talking about Just Dane for a minute, and then I'm gonna get into some of the jobs, the house, and then all that good stuff. Just like I said, we've been around going on 52 years. In 08, no, I'm sorry, 03, we started working with circular support and restorative justice. Okay. The Honorable Judge Mitchell, who is the drug court judge now. He was the assistant director at that time, and he asked me when he graduated from law school that he wanted me to take his place as the assistant director. You know, I took it as an honor, but I don't believe in jumping off in deep water if you can't swim. And I didn't feel that I was ready for assistant director. So they switched people around and they moved somebody in his position and they left the circle support position open, which I dearly love, because and we'll talk a little bit more about the circles in a minute. But we do inReach, and I think I want to talk more about the inReach. First of all, I want to open it up for people that have questions, if that's possible. They can ask questions as we go along. And don't just have to. This could be a conversation. Instead of a presentation. So when I started at Just Dane, I started as the circle support coordinator. Okay. And what the circle is, I take 5 or 6 volunteers and I put them around one individual to help them make that transition back from being incarcerated back into the community. Okay. And once they get back into the community, then we put a 6 or 7 people around them and assist them in making that transition physically, mentally, and emotionally. Okay, so we operate with the circle. We operate about a 93-94% success rate of people who have circles don't go back to the institution. Why? Because they have a support system in place that helps them. Initially, it started out as a Department of Correction program. The Department of Correction wanted us to circle around people coming out of prison. Then when they dropped theirs, United Way came in and said, okay, we'll take it, but you can put circles around anybody that's justice involved. Okay, so that meant people coming out of county jails, people on probation, but it wasn't just focused on one particular type of a person, So, which I thought was great. All right. Our circles last 6 months. That's what it says, 6 months. My longest circuit has gone 18 months. Really my longest circuit has gone 2 years. And what happened on that one was that we had 2 publishers in this circle. And we had the young man, the core team member, had wrote a book. And at the circle, he would read parts from that book. So the 2 publishers say that we're not going to end this circle until we publish this book. So it took 2 years. They published the book. It came out, great things, So, but I have a real passion for circles because it's so important, And before I move in further from that circle, we have all female circles. When we get young ladies to come in that has been in an abusive situation, we put them in an all-female circle because they would tend to be more open around all women. Okay, so we have about 3 all women. We have an LGBTQ circle. Okay, again, focusing on those special need individuals. On the average, we have pretty close about 12 to 15 circles running at any given time. So I love circles. That's my passion. But to get back into Just Dane, I want to go. First of all, I want to go inReach. Like I said, I had the great honor of working with Pat and Tom for all those years, going into Oak Hill, going into Oregon Farm, going into Thompson Farm. Working with those individuals 6 to 9 months prior to their release. And the idea was to go in and see what kind of plan did they have in place. Let them know that no plan was a plan that failed. And most of them didn't have a plan, because they had been in this mindset well, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna do whatever I need to do. But letting them know that they need a plan coming out, not just one plan. You need 2 or 3 plans, because one plan, if Murphy's Law kick in and stuff can go wrong, it will go wrong. So having a backup to a backup is great, And by us working with them 6 to 9 months prior to their release, and we seeing them every 2 months after the first time we seen them, we can ensure that day one when they get out, they know exactly what it is that they need to do. And believe me, they cannot make this transition by themselves, And a lot of them have been trying to do that over the years. And that's the reason they get caught up in that revolving door syndrome, in and out, because when they come back out, they're doing the same thing and they seem being around the same people. And we say, you got to change people, places, and things in order for you to be successful once you come back out, and that's part of what having a support group does for them. It gives them a different avenues instead of the people that they was hanging with in that type of situation, So, but once they get back out, we start working with them day one. Okay, I have them to call me. When you get to your parole, we go back a little further. Sometime the institution will let me pick them up from the institution. I really love that piece more so when I can pick them up from the institution, because the first thing I do, I take them to breakfast, and I get them a nice walleye breakfast, and for them to be, locked up for so long and not having that good breakfast. And when I say being locked up for a long time, we have some people that's been locked up over 50 years, 40 years, average 30, between 20 and 30 years, and they have no idea what it is out yet. But when you take them and you give them a breakfast, and I walk with them through that whole process, from taking them to breakfast, to taking them to their parole officer, to taking them to their bank, getting their check out, and normally taking them to a credit union somewhere to get a checking account, a saving account set up, taking them to their housing, taking them from their housing to Walmart so they can get some of the things that they need in order to be successful. But what we do here at Justine, we have a basket set up with all the things that we feel they need: laundry detergent, paper towels, tissue, towels, everything that they need in order to make that initial step back into the community. That's a big help, So we take them down to job service so they can sign up for their Quest card and their insurance card. And then after that, we take them to their housing, the TLP, where they want to be at. Once we leave them, they have, for that day, they have a great start. We give them a cell phone. Technology. When they went in, they had these big box phones, and they had nothing else about smartphones. So to see them trying to make that transition on, how do I talk on this thing? How do I make a call? And normally what I would do, I would teach them how to receive a call, how to make a call. Anything else, I'm still learning myself, So, but once they get that, I'll take them to their housing, and then next day I'll pick them up and we'll start that process to a point where when I get finished with them, they're ready. They have the housing, they have the food. The only thing they need now is to figure out what it is that they want to do. They want to go to school, they want to get a job, and then I start focusing in on that type of situation for them. Okay, that's with the inReach part, and that's the part I love most. Because when they come out, they call you. And they sort of nervous and they're depending on you. Okay, and when you take them by the hand and you I don't just tell them where to go. I take them to these different places where to go. They feel a lot more comfortable. When they can talk and going to the bank and you know one of the problems that they have when they get out, they don't have the proper identification. Okay, some of them don't come out with anything other than their prison ID. And banks and places on the street does not recognize that prison ID as a form of identification. So you got a check for $40,000. Okay, you can't buy. And we've had people walk around with that kind of money over the weekend while they get some type of identification. But once they get their identification, then they can open up checking account. Some of the institutions might let them come out with a driver's license, a state ID. Then they can come out and keep that process going. Okay, but for the most part, they don't come out with the proper identification. So we have to go through that whole process of working with them. Okay, and like I said earlier, if there's questions, please feel free to chime in. I'll be talking here forever.
Well, John, you've got a lot to say.
Got a lot.
And having worked with you for a number of years, I just have to tell everybody there are so many individuals, men and women of varying ages in our community who owe their daily lives to John, because you use the word system involved. It's a euphemism for you've been incarcerated. You're a convict. It's people aren't welcome into the community after that, and it's shocking to see that some people come out of prison with money because they've been working while they're in prison. Some people come out with nothing. Some come out with family, some come out with no one. And John is there someone, and is there someone sometimes for years. Um, sometimes for years. I have traveled with John back and forth between prisons, and I can't tell you every time we stop somewhere, someone comes up to thank him. I have never been with him when someone hasn't come and said, "Hey, bro, thank you," or "Mr. Givens, thank you." Family members, thank you. It's an amazing job that John does, and he is the one and only in this community that operates that way. So that's the inReach. And that's, when people come out of prison, John, they're not free. If they're
No,
if they're a sexual offender, they're wearing a bracelet on their ankle for life. If they have had any kind of violence, nobody wants to give them housing. It just goes on, the difficulties that people face. And so many of these people that come out, there's such innocence about our way of life now. So
but I don't do it for that reason. You know, uh, when I see them doing good, it does my heart good to know that I had some kind of part in that. You know, um, when I worked with the Sprite program years ago, and I go into these group homes, I make presentations, and I tell them about my job at Sprite. You get one or two saying, "Well, I was in the Sprite program. Do you remember me?" Come on, no, evidently you didn't listen to me too much because you're still here. But I enjoy seeing people being successful once they get out. Yeah, I think the thanks. Okay, I appreciate that. But me just seeing you do well does my heart good. Like I said, this is more of a passion, than it is a job. I could have retired. Actually, I retired from the state in '08, from the Department of Correction, but I retired to do another job, you know, and I feel like as long as the Lord bless me with health and strength and able me to wake up every day, I'm gonna get up and do what I need to do to do this job, So, sometimes we find our niches in life. This is mine, and I love everything about it. And people that I get a chance to meet and work with, like this evening. And I see Candace there who's on a circle and doing volunteering work with simulation, So
John, talk about the simulation.
yeah, we're gonna
That's
get
what hooked me.
Can I ask a question?
please.
I have a practical, I'm sitting here thinking one of the things you haven't mentioned is transportation. And I have always found bus schedules to be very confusing. And I avoid taking the bus because I don't want to figure out the system. I don't know what the pay system is or, routes are. It seems like that would be a critical thing for someone to walk with one of your clients through and go through the bus system with them for where they are going to need to go.
It's the new system is it's a little tough, but we have people that come out to our service fair, which I'm talking about, the service fair, and they'll lay out maps. They got numbers that they can call to say, well, I'm at this point and I would like to get over to this point. Can you tell me how to get there? And they supply that support to them, knowing that it's the whole system has changed. So there's people out there working with a lot of these guys too. I'll be lost on the bus myself.
Right.
I can't think of the last time I was on a bus, but they have people that's there to assist them with where are you? I'm gonna stand on this corner. Okay, well the next bus gonna come at such and such time. Take that, and then they'll tell them where to transfer and stuff So that
And
bus
Jen-
company have stepped up. And,
Jen, that is a real issue because these people have to get to their parole offices once a week.
yeah,
They don't have transportation. And so sometimes they have to take 3 buses from wherever they are to get where they're going. So at the service fair that John puts on once a month, we have people from the Metropolitan Bus Transit Organization that come,
yeah,
I mean, with loads of information for them.
with maps and books and free bus passes,
Yeah.
for the people. But transportation is a big piece. I agree with that. And the time, it takes an hour to get from the north side to the west side, on the bus. And if you're going over there and the place you're going is closed, now that's an hour coming back. That's almost half your day gone on the bus, So, but thank God for the transportation.
Right.
If we didn't have the transportation, it would really be in bad shape, which I'm gonna talk about when we get to the job situations, So, any more questions about that? Okay, well, I'm gonna get off into a little bit about Justine programming, the Johnny Home program. And Johnny Home program was a program that was funded by United Way to assist individuals in their transition back into the community. Under the Johnny Home program, I have a men's support group that I do on Monday night called the Phoenix. And we've always had a men's support group. And late, we've been averaging 10 to 15 men coming in just to talk about stuff that's happening in their life, I look forward to those Mondays because the people that come in, they focus, they have questions, they have concerns, and when they leave, hopefully we address all the concerns that they have. And just by the number of participants that we have, 10 to 15 every Monday, that's a good thing. At one point there was 2 or 3 years ago. Now to have this large crowd It's just unbelievable, you know. But that's the Phoenix group. We have, Pat mentioned the service fair. I would invite all of you to come out and to visit a service fair. You know, it will blow your mind. We have we focus on your basic needs. Basic needs being resident employment support, treatment, transportation, education. All of those are in the house. We have about 30 vendors sitting around the table, and they all are focused on those basic needs. Transportation, that's what we're talking about. There's people that's giving free rides. There's the bus companies there. There's about 3 or 4 different organizations that comes in on the transportation piece. Okay, we have employers who come there that's hiring people on the spot. We have the electrical union come in, you know, and to me that's a big one. They come in and they sign people up there, start them off at $27 an hour, going through training, you know, and they let them know that once they get past the training and on the job training and stuff, you know, they're making almost $100 an hour. You know, I would like to make some of that money, you know, but I'm not into. I'm a people person. I'm not into electrician and all that kind of stuff, you know. But they got jobs that's there. One of the biggest things that we have is a lot of mental health
Yep.
organizations that's there, NAMI, and we have at least an average of 6, 7 mental health agencies there that providing services for those individuals. Some for the drug users that provides Suboxone and methadone type situation for people, you know. So and then we have housing. The housing authority is there. SLIM is there. Sober Living in Madison. The Nehemiah is there from their housing program. You know, we get the Black Man of Madison are there. You know, Expo is there. All these people are focused around housing and that type of stuff. You know, so we're on average about 30 different vendors each month. Okay. Now we also have not just the vendors, we have the participants. Those are the most important people. Okay. What we did was we did a massive recruitment. We went out to all the halfway houses in Madison. There's the White House, the Kipling House, the Foster House, and we made presentations. We went to all the parole agent's office. Every parole agent office in Madison, we made a presentation to, just to let them know the services that we have available for their clients. Because you believe it or not, they've had a big turnover in agents. You know, all the old agents are moving on. So you're getting this whole new class of young, out of school agents, you know, and they need to be educated as to what the resources are that's out there. And we go to them, we try to catch their monthly meetings, and we go in the beginning and we take a half an hour and just talk about all the services that we provide, you know. And the reason I mention them, they are making those referrals to the service fair. So lately we've been averaging pretty close about 30, 35 participants coming from different places. Ark House for women. The first time in years that we've had women to come from the Ark House, you know, because they've been normally shut off from everything else. But we have one of our staff who was there who went in, and they have new people there, and we've gone in and make presentation to the Ark House. And now we're averaging about 5 to 7 women's every service fair now, you know, which I think is great. The White House making it mandatory that everybody that can go goes to the service fair. Same way with the White House. I mean, with Kipling and with Foster. You know, a lot of time we have to provide the bus passes, and we do. And a lot of time what we'll do, we'll tell them, you get them there, and we'll make sure we get them back, okay? And we're averaging 30, 35 people. And at one point, just to show you, I say that number, at one point we was dealing with 5 to 10 participants a month, you know, which, you know, that had to change because there were so many people out there. So by us going to these houses and letting them know what it is that we're doing, and we having them to come in and they're looking for jobs, they looking, a lot of the people from different areas of the state, and they want to transition back into Madison because of all the resources and stuff this year, you know. But that's a kind of a touchy situation with the parole and probation department because, you know, I've had some agents tell me we don't need you to recruit people for us. we can take care of our own situation, you know. But if you got people coming to you wanting to make that transition, and you go to the agent will do it. If I can help somebody make a transition, great, you know, because but let's before we get up into the transition piece, we talk about going into the institutions, okay, actually going out and working with those individuals 6 to 9 months out. Most of them are on work release, okay, and they've been on work release a couple of years now, and they're coming out with a substantial amount of money. We talking about 80, we talking about 100,000 or more that they've saved up.
After 30 years, you save a lot of money.
You know, I mean, they don't get on it right away, but you know, they might get the last 5 or 6 years. They get a chance to be on work release to come up with this money, but then they have to pay rent. They pay $750 a month, room and board. Okay, they pay $30 a month supervision fee for something that they getting watched anyway. They give them a little bag lunch with a sandwiches, a couple of sandwiches, an apple, and that's it. You know, but $750 a month they pay. They got 19 work camps in Wisconsin with 200 or 300 people per camp or more. That at the end of the day, that get to be a pretty sizable sum. Okay, all this money goes into one bank. Okay, and our clients don't get any interest on that money. The interest goes back to the state. Okay, so it's a real. I said at one point out at Oak Hill, I made a presentation about 500 people, and I said that correction was the biggest industry in the state. Somebody behind me said, "No, it's not. It's the second largest." You know, well, okay, excuse me, you know, but before I made it back to my office, somebody had called the Department of Correction and told me, tell your guy to put a muzzle on himself, you know. So, but you know, it is what it is. But you know, coming out of the institution, people need that support, and what Just Dane is doing, I think, is real crucial. And the services that we provide, you know, we have peer support. where we have people with lived experience that walk along beside them to help them make that transition back into the community. You know, what I found, especially working with the juvenile, you could tell them all day long to go over there and do this, do that. They never would do it. But if you took them by the hand and carried them, you was assured that they was going to do it. And it's the same way with peer support. You have somebody that has been in their shoes, you know, and we look at Just Dane, I say we would have about 60 to 65% of the people that work here are justice involved. I have been in justice involved at one point in their life, which is great because when people walk in the door and they start talking to you and you tell them that you understand where they're at because you've been there too, they tend to be more open. You know, that can tell you when I make a presentation in the prison, I start off by saying, my number is, you know, 64113A. Right away, there's a connection. He's one of us. He understands. And from that point on, it's good. Because when they can talk to somebody who has walked in their shoes, they tend to be more open and honest and focused about the things that they want to do. And when you tell them about your success and where you're at in life, they want that. I wear a suit every day. I've been here, like I say, 16 years. I've never one day in those 16 years came in this office without a suit on. Okay, so when we go out to the prison, oh man, when I get out, I want a couple of those suits. I say, get out. And I take them and I get them 2 suits. Okay, they got a place over East Madison called Dress for Success. And I take them over and I suit them up with 2 suits. I'll get them a shirt and I'll get a tie. Of course, I got to tie the tie for them because most of them have never put a suit on before. So the next day when you pick them up, they got the suit on, their chest stuck out, you know, that's a whole new person. Clothes make the man, you know, and they're ready, you know, to go out and move. And then, you know, it's all about them taking them and having them find jobs and, you know, do some of the things that they need to do in order to be successful in their day-to-day walk, you know. So, questions from anybody?
Candace.
I have one.
Oh, Sue.
This is all new to me. These organizations, Slim Expo Arc, I didn't even know they were here, and I've been a Madisonian for 30 years, so I'm ashamed to admit it. But I'm trying to get an idea of the number of people coming out of jails that you have to deal with in a month or a year. How many?
That's a good question. But every Tuesday is a release date. They have, right now, I think they have pretty close to about 45,000 people on supervision. You know, I know in prison they got over 20,000 that's incarcerated. And they got another 40 to 60,000 on parole and supervision in the state, you know. So it's a lot of people out there, you know, and it's since we're talking about that, it's housing. Housing is the biggest problem of all.
In Madison, especially. Yeah.
You know, in 2008, they passed a law that says that the landlords could discriminate based on a person's conviction record. Okay, they won't say that. Well, I'm not gonna hire you, put you on rent to you because you got a criminal background. They'll say you need a 700 credit score. Okay, you've been locked up for 15, 20, 30 years. You don't even know what a credit score is. You know, So right away, that's one way of doing it. Or you need to have a cosigner. You don't know nobody. Everybody that you know is dead. So it's not happening. Or you have to make 3 times what your rent is. All these are ways that they get around renting to you. We've had guys come out with $100,000 say, I'll pay for 2 years in advance. And I said, no, thank you, but no thank you. And we have a population that's real hard to deal with. That's the sex offenders. Okay, since we're talking about housing, I want to touch on this real quick, and I'm not going to say what rental agency. They just put out over 200 sex offenders on the street. They was renting to these sex offenders for the last 10 years or more. So all of a sudden this year they changed their mind and said we're not going to rent to any more sex offenders. So like today ends, a lot of them lease, and they're not renewing them. So tomorrow these people that had apartments are homeless. Now the homeless population is large in Madison as is, but now all of a sudden you got 200 more sex offenders that's on the street, and that they have so many restrictions on them. It's almost impossible for them to find a place. The average person come out and have 30 to 40 rules of supervision. A sex offender come out with 96, 97 rules. You can't go to a park. You can't go to a church. You can't go to a mall. There's so many restrictions that you don't know what it is that you can and can't do. Your agent have to approve. If you find a house, your agent either approve or disapprove of that house. Okay, so the house could be, you can have a green space real close that looks like a park. They'll say, well, no, you can't move in it. There's a park close by. That's going to be a major issue in Madison for the next, well, until they get this new homeless place built out there on Stone Road. So, but that's a big problem.
And John, I just want to say, because this was an education for me, you're talking about sex offenders, and for most of us, we're thinking, oh my God, we don't want any of these people in our neighborhood, sex offenders. We think about perverts, we think about evil people, but the majority of sex offenders are people who did something wrong when they were young and didn't know any better, and for life. For the spectrum of sex offenders is so broad that it's a misnomer, that it's just not a good way to identify people.
And they are the least.
They pay for the rest of their lives.
They're the least likely individuals to reoffend.
Mm-hmm.
They're least likely to reoffend. And just want to throw the curveball. We're the only, listen to this now, we're the only agency in Madison that works with sex offenders. The only. And that bothers me deeply when you got agencies out there that are working with justice involved people, but when as soon as you say a sex offender, nah, we don't go with Just Dane. We don't work with sex offenders. As Pat said, these are a lot of them are individuals that had they was 17 and she was 15 as teenagers, and they still have that. I have a young man that got out Tuesday. He's dealing with a sex offense from 1965. Okay, where he was a kid and she was a kid, but it's on his file. So he's a sex offender. You know, but that's something that you got to deal with it because it's part of reality. It's there, you know, and we do it open arm, you know, and we tell them when we make presentations to the foster where the sex offenders are at, we let them know we have a computer lab here that because they can't get on computers, you know, but we have a computer lab here at Justine that they can come and we have staff that would sit down with them where they can work on their resume. They need jobs. And a lot of the ones that just getting kicked out their houses have jobs.
They just,
Because they had to have a job to keep their apartment. 200 new people back on the street, you know, and that was just because one real estate agency said that they wasn't going to rent to sex offenders anymore. I won't call it name at all, but it's a sad day, you know, and I really, you know, all that we can do is hope and pray for them, you know, but they're gonna be in the mix of all the sex offenders that's out there now, and a lot of them they stand in hotels because they got jobs they can afford. So some of them are doubling up, sharing with a room with somebody that they know, which is half price, but they're paying $1,000 a month just to have a place to sleep, you know. So it's kind of bad out there, and that, yeah.
John mentioned, there's just two more things. I want you to talk about the simulations that
Yes.
Justine does, but before that, I just want to help everybody understand that when people come out of prison, they're still not free. Most of them are on probation for many years, some of them, which means that they still have to report in. They still are restricted from doing various things. So their punishment doesn't end when they're released. And that was a
But-
surprise to me. That was a big surprise, and it's a big problem. So,
But to just go along with what Pat is saying, mentally, they are still in prison. Physically, they're on the street, but mentally, they still are doing time in their mind. You figure, you was a young man just got 57 years he was locked up. 57 years he was locked up. Okay, he did 18 years in the hole. Okay, out of that time, and for him to come out and be somewhat sane today, you know, I'm surprised, but he's on the street now. But it's so hard for him to adjust to being out here. You know, some people say that he at certain times of the day he's standing up by his door. Why? Because they had to stand count 5, 6 times a day. So in his mind, he's still standing count. You know, will he ever fully get out of prison from his mind? You know, probably not. You know, but we're working with him. We got him in a circle. You know, the circle. You know, he's real hard to work in the circle because he don't know. He don't know what he don't need. He don't know what he don't know. You know, he don't have a clue of what it is to be back out in the system free. You know, so he got all these people around him now helping him. He could not do this by himself. You know, from getting him in his house. You know, we had the University of Wisconsin. It's not the Innocent Project. It's through UW Law School. They worked to real hard to get him out. They bought him his first suit. You know, so but now he's out. He's with us. Okay, and we work with him on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. you know, because there's always something that he needs to. And what we're trying to do is trying to find him a place to stay. He's in the halfway house now, but we're trying to find him a senior living place, but nobody's taking.
Mhm.
Nobody's taking. You know, and I don't know that he could survive in that type of environment. You know, because he's been so long. He's been around all these guys, and you know, it would take a lot of support from circles and whatever else for him to be successful around that. You want to talk about assimilation?
Please.
Okay, assimilation is one of the, you know, I love it. I'm the director of it. What we try to do is we try to educate the community of what a person goes through their first 30 days on the street, you know, and all the challenges. Have any of you been, I know Candace has been in assimilations, working assimilation, or Patty has. Any of the rest of you been involved in assimilation?
But after today, I think they will be.
I hope so. You know, you need to go through this just to experience this for yourself. You know, it's what a person goes through their first 30 days. You would take the identity of a person who was just released from prison this morning. We take an hour and we break it up into 4 15-minute segments. Each 15-minute segment represents a week. Okay. And those 4 15-minute segments, you have to get your basic needs met: resident employment, support, treatment, transportation, education. Okay. In that time frame. And they see how hard it is for people to go to the employment and to the job service and try to get a job.
And wait in line.
When you got a line, you know, some of the simulations we have a couple of hundred people, and you might have 100 people in line waiting to get a job. Okay, so now the 15-minute goes quick, you know. So then I blow my whistle and everybody, ooh, you know. Then we go through some more stuff. I blow my whistle and week 2 start. And I let them know, if you don't have housing before the end of this month, you are homeless. Okay, it's realistic. We have a lot of people that sit down and they can't do it because emotionally it's too hard for them. You know, so we let them know you got to get a job, then you got to get a house, and they say, well, there's a line there for the job. I said, I can't get a house. Well, do what you can do. They need to pay child support. They need to go to AANA. They need to
Medications.
the medication. The medication is a big piece because when you get out, they give you 2 weeks worth of medication. Okay, and when your medication is gone, then you got to worry about getting that refill. But what a lot of people do, what most people do, when they get out, they stop taking the medicine because they become their own doctor. I don't need this no more. I'm free. I can go back. And they've been on this medication for 10 years. They can't stop it like that. You know? They was on it for a reason. You know, and they need to go to a doctor and have that doctor to wean them off. But they just stop taking it. So in assimilation, we ask them, well, did you get your medication? No. Did you get your medication? No. Why? You know, so it's realistic, and we go through the whole 4 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, I let them know, see how many people get apartments. You may have 5 out of 200 that got an apartment. You may have 15 or 20 that got a job, but weren't able to get over to get a house before their month was over with, you know. And so you process it out with them. You ask them questions, what was the hardest, and get feedback from them as to, you know, how they felt. And a lot of them felt disgusted. There was, you know, a whole bunch of different adjectives that describe how they feel. But what we did as an agency, we put a couple of support people in that crowd, and we let them know you might see 2 or 3 people from Just Dane. You might want to talk to them because they might help you get to the front of the line. They might help you work through whatever it is that you're trying to go through, and it's working, you know. But most people don't think about that at the time because they're more focused on trying to get their tasks met. Okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing. When
Yeah.
John invited me, 12 years ago to go to a simulation, I thought he was talking about a simulation, not a simulation. And I went
And
and
at
I
the end,
watched, I watched 300 people at UW, in the social studies people, the people in criminal justice, a whole group of people, all these college kids who had no concept of what life was going to be like for people coming out of incarceration. And they role play an individual who's come out. And the change that we see in in that hour among these kids, and we've done this, oh my goodness, we've done it at synagogues, churches, credit unions, other not-for-profits. People have no idea. And when they experience this, then
so
they,
we did this in Milwaukee for Employ Milwaukee with some parole agents. And I just seen an arm go in my door. I got a candy dish back there. Yeah. So they into the candy, but you know it's made me lose my tone, but you know.
it is, John. So many of the people that serve on circles of support, or people who come to Just Dane to volunteer for mentoring programs and other things, are people who have attended a simulation and are shocked,
Yeah,
shocked
you know,
to
but
find
I want
out.
to tell them real quick about this. We did one in Milwaukee for some parole officers,
Yeah.
the parole and probation department in Milwaukee. We had 4 parole agents sit down and say, "Send me back to prison. I don't want to do this. This is too hard." You know?
Too hard.
But we let them know that there are people that's around that if it gets too emotional for you and too just stop, say something to us, then we'll you know, if it's too hard for you, we'll stop it, you know. Or you just might need to talk to somebody, you know. We've had people say, this is too much like people in my family. And okay, let us know that. Then we won't let you, we won't send you through it, you know, because we don't want to traumatize you anymore, you know. So, but the simulation, we got one coming up Friday, but later on, as far we got one coming up for the community, and that's the one that I'm gonna put a special invite out to all of you, because I expect to see all of you there, you know, going as a participant going through the program, you know. Anything else, Pat?
No, John, I think, oh, one last thing, and it's something that Just Dane does so effectively. And that is, I don't think anybody realizes that when somebody goes to prison, it isn't just the individual who's incarcerated that suffers, it's the family.
Families.
And Just Dane reaches out to do a number of things to work with the families of people who are incarcerated, who suffer because maybe their breadwinner is gone, their support is gone, their father, their brother, their child. People need help, and Just Dane provides a number of programs for that as well, which John also oversees. So
yeah, you know, we had a young man come in the other day who had his wife and 3 kids. They moved down from they left Green Bay to come here for a better. And I'm saying, hey, look, you should maybe should have stayed in Green Bay, you know, because they're sleeping in the car with these 3 kids. The 5 of them are sleeping in a car, you know, and it tears my heart up to see, you know, the little kids, all them in a car. So they go to St. Vinny's, and they might put them up, but if they are not there on time, you know, it's first come, first serve, and they might have to sleep in the car. And right now it's not too bad, but we know
You're not.
the next month it's gonna be cold, and for people to be sleeping in the car as cold as it is, and the kids are. They got the kids registered in school, so they going to school homeless, you know. But we got them clothing from over at Dig and Save, those St. Vinny's and that type of stuff. We have them going to different food pantries to get food. But you know, it's and you can eat. You know, in Madison, you don't have to go hungry because, you know, you can go to the Beacon, you can have breakfast, you know, lunch. You can go down to the Luke House and you can have dinner in the evening, you know. So you don't have to go hungry in Madison, but all the food pantries, the river serves a meal. The place over on over by Park Street, there's several places that provide dinner for people in the evening, you know. So it's
Yeah, the neighborhood food pantries,
neighborhood,
they
yeah.
do an incredible job, but it's the housing. It's mainly the housing and the jobs and the support and the medication. And I will just say one more thing, John, before we sign off, and that is that Just Dane works with all of these other agencies in town to make sure that people get connected, and it's those connections that make a big difference. So John Givens has made a big difference in my life, understanding who the different communities are within our larger community and how difficult some of them have just to make it through a day. And so it's it's influenced my thinking about the place that we live in. And I have to say again, John, on behalf of myself, but for all the people whose lives you've touched over the years and continue to do so, thank you so much. And thanks for
You know,
sharing
like I said,
with us this morning.
I'm blessed
I know
to be
you
able to
are.
do this, you know, and I love it. And as long as Lord give me strength, I'll be doing this. You
Look
know.
out, folks. He's going to be around for a long time. So,
You know,
thank you, John. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully shed a little more light on it for you. You know, if
You
you have
always do.
if you have questions, feel free to check with Pat. She has my contact information. I'm open to talk to anybody at any time about, you know, whatever. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
And whoa, can't leave it without, you know, if you want to be a part of a circle, you want to volunteer, you know, go to our website, check with Danny. We have these trainings about every 2 or 3 months, and I would love to have all of you as volunteers for circles. Okay, so I didn't want to leave without inviting y'all to be a part of us, you know. But I want to thank y'all for having me. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully I've enlightened you a little bit about the situations that's going on in Madison now. But thank you, Pat. Thank you to
Thank
the
you, John.
ladies.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording now.